All right, let's get right into it. Deep in the bone-dry desert of southern Peru, there's a message, one that's etched right into the earth itself. It's huge, it's silent, and for the better part of a century, it's been one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. We are, of course, talking about the Nazca Lines. Yeah, for more than a millennium, these absolutely massive figures and lines were just lying there, hidden in plain sight. They were perfectly preserved by one of the driest climates on the entire planet. Whole generations of people walked across these lands with no idea of the giant sleeping right under their feet. And that right there is the big mystery, isn't it? These incredible drawings, some of them are nearly 500 feet across, are practically invisible when you're standing on the ground. You have to be way up high to see what they really are. So you have to ask, why would an ancient culture pour so much time and energy into creating art that they themselves could never truly see? That's the question we're going to dig into. To even begin to understand the why, first we have to get a handle on the who. And look, these weren't aliens or some long-lost super civilization. They were a remarkably clever and sophisticated people who figured out how to thrive in one of the toughest environments in the world. So the story really gets started with the Paracas culture. They were already kind of experimenting with landscape art, but it was their descendants, the Nazca people, who took it to a whole new level, between 100 BC and 400 AD. I mean, this was a complex society. They had advanced pottery, incredible textiles, even irrigation systems. And then, around 600 AD, they just vanished, leaving their giant drawings behind. And those drawings stayed a secret until the 1920s, when commercial pilots started flying over the area and saw them from the air. Imagine being the first person to see that. So how in the world did these lines manage to survive for so long? Well, the answer is in the canvas itself. The Nazca Desert gets almost zero rain, and there's very little wind. The ground is covered with these dark, rust-colored rocks that basically act like a protective shell. It was the perfect storm of conditions to preserve these incredible works for thousands of years. Okay, so that brings us to the big how. Right? How did an ancient culture create such massive, geometrically precise figures without drones or airplanes or even a hot air balloon? Well, the answer is just a brilliant, brilliant testament to human ingenuity. You know, the technique itself is so fascinatingly simple. The Nazca didn't dig these massive trenches or anything. Instead, they just removed the top layer of dark pebbles, which uncovered the lighter colored dirt underneath. It's like a giant negative drawing. Archaeologists are pretty sure they started with small models and then used simple tools, we're talking wooden stakes and ropes, combined with a really solid understanding of geometry to scale those designs up with incredible accuracy on the desert floor. And this simple, elegant method, it pretty much debunks one of the most popular myths out there. You don't need aliens or ancient astronauts for this. In fact, modern researchers have successfully recreated huge geoglyphs using the exact same low-tech tools and techniques the Nazca had. So the key takeaway here is this was an incredible achievement of human planning, teamwork, and skill, not some kind of extraterrestrial intervention. So we've covered the who, the when, and the how, but now we get to the biggest question of all. Why? Why create these enormous figures that are really only visible from the sky? This is where the debate gets really interesting.
All right, so there are a few major theories floating around. An early idea was that the lines were a giant astronomical calendar, maybe to help with farming. And yeah, a few lines do point toward solstices, but most of them don't. The alignments could just be a coincidence. Then, of course, there's the alien landing strip theory, which has zero physical evidence to back it up. But the theory that's really gained the most steam with scientists is that the lines were sacred pathways for religious ceremonies, specifically rituals to call for water. Think about it. In this incredibly dry landscape, water was everything. It was life. And a lot of the animal figures, like the spider and the monkey, are symbols of water and fertility in Andean cultures. Archaeologists have even found ceremonial altars along the lines. The thinking is that these were basically huge open-air temples, where people would walk in procession, praying to their gods for rain.
But the story of the Nazca Lines is not over. Not by a long shot. As our technology gets better, we're learning more than ever before. But at the same time, this fragile legacy is facing some new and very serious threats. Get this. Modern technology is completely revolutionizing what we know about this place. Since just 2018, researchers using high-res drones and even AI to scan satellite images have discovered over 140 new geoglyphs. It turns out the desert is hiding far more secrets than we ever imagined. But even though they're a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the lines are unbelievably fragile. A single footprint can last for centuries. So can the tire tracks from a careless truck driver, which actually happened in 2018. On top of that, climate change is bringing weird weather and rainfall that threatens to wash the lines away. Thankfully, conservation efforts are really ramping up, using technology and education to try and protect this irreplaceable treasure for the future.
So, in the end, it seems the Nazca Lines weren't a message for aliens, but a prayer to the gods. A vast, sacred landscape created by a people who were deeply connected to their harsh environment. They literally inscribed their beliefs, their fears, and their hopes onto the surface of the earth. And, it leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. What indelible marks, what messages is our own civilization leaving on the planet for those who will come thousands of years from now?